right, welcome to Mad Lab Boxing, our inaugural show.
Welcome back.
I'm so excited.
Me too.
Hold on, let me pop a nice little Zyn in my mouth. This show is sponsored by Zyn. That would be nice if you were sponsored by Zyn. Because of Zyn, I've quit smoking and vaping now. Thank you, Zyn. Now I'm going to have fucking gum cancer. All right, so this is our first show, Mad Lab Boxing. Me and the Mad Lab here. I'm Anthony Basilio. I'm your host. Mike is your lead analyst here. Me and Mike been friends for the last 25 years, and how we met was through boxing. You know, a long time ago, we used to go down to Atlantic City, Boardwalk Hall. We saw Gotti Mayweather. We've been to a million fights. We used to go to Madison Square Garden every year for the Puerto Rican Day weekend, parade weekend when Miguel Cotto fought. And we've seen GGG fight when he fought Sergio Martinez. We've gone to the Barclays Center for fights. We've gone to Vegas. We've seen
Mayweather and
Cotto Pacquiao.
And
Mayweather Gotti. So, and then we got into the UFC, and Mike became big in UFC. And, it's been looking online and looking at, what's going on with boxing right now and how bigger it's becoming, and there's not a lot of people, enough people talking about it, but there's a million people who think they're UFC experts out there launching their own podcast. And with what's going on right now with Turki and Dana and them coming into the scene and boxing starting to make a comeback, we're like, you know what, let's get back into boxing a little bit. Let's get back into our roots and how we started this whole thing from the beginning. And we're excited to do this show once a week. We'll talk about boxing news, upcoming fights, any pertinent news, anything that comes to mind. We got a list of things to go over right now, and we could just get right into it, Mike. And I could start. So, I finally watched the Eubanks.
a month later.
Yeah, the Eubanks Ben fight, man. I was out that night with my wife. I'm like, well, I gotta watch this fight. He was telling me, dude, it was a fucking.
I was texting him nonstop.
It's like, this is a war. You gotta watch it. This is like a Gotti Ward fight. And finally, last night I watched it, man. Wow, what a fight! And look, they not the most skilled boxers, but they came to fucking fight. Ben looked like a little mini Mike Tyson in the way he had his head movement. And, I really enjoyed that fight. It was cool to see with the fathers in there. And, dude.
That was big for British boxing. That was huge. Like, over the pond, that was a huge fight, bro. That was
and good for those kids to get a nice paycheck, too. The crowd, man, the entrance. I mean, it was like, it had the feeling of like a big-time championship belt fight.
I was touting that fight for
No, you were.
months.
You were talking about it for months. You couldn't wait for this fight.
And people are like, over there it's huge. Over here it wasn't big. But like we know, you got these matchups like Gatti and Ward, let's just say. Those two guys, they weren't the greatest. I mean, great fighters. They weren't the greatest.
Ward was a journeyman, but they
matched up perfectly. Yep. And there was just something about this fight. I was like, these guys are going to match up. Because they were supposed to fight before, then it got canceled. Then there's like real hate there. Then the fathers were involved. It was just, I just said, guys, I was telling everyone, this is going to align to be a great fight. This is a fight that all the hype that you're seeing, this is a fight that's going to live up to the hype.
The size difference was sizable.
Yeah, and they still took the $500K from him for missing by an ounce.
By 1 ounce.
That's crazy, bro. I mean, that's come on.
$500K.
That's crazy. They still took $500K from him for missing by the ounce. Then the crazy thing was it was emotional because Eubanks' father showed up.
Sure.
Hasn't seen him in years. He said I'll never show up. He called him a disgrace. So they're supposed to fight again. We'll talk about Turki and
I hope they do.
The pros and cons.
Gotti and Ward fought 3 times.
But here's the thing: do you really want to see it again?
I would.
But here's the this.
Hey, look, man. After we just watched the Fatal Fury, so this was like the kickoff for Turki.
Yeah, but here's the thing: this has to happen now if it happens, because he can't go back down in weight and fight and then come back up again. In weight.
Yeah. No,
so it's now or never.
But how about if you're Turki, right? And he promoted this fight. This was a Fatal Fury fight, and he was like, this is like kind of like the kickoff for him, even though he had a couple fights before that. Was like, wow, what a banger way to start this whole thing now. And then they go into Times Square, dude, and they throw those 3 fights up there that all 3 were horrible, and then they back it up with Canelo the next day, another miserable fight. How the fuck did that happen?
Well, here's the thing. This is when we're going to talk about the pros and cons of Turki. This is, listen, I love the guy. I love what he's trying to do with boxing, but I think he's got to navigate his way through the business a little bit better. Because you're front loading these guys so much money. There's no incentive. You got fights signed before fights even take place for the other guy. We're going to talk about Canelo and stuff like that. So, but listen, I mean, as bad as the fights were, you can't take away from Romero. He did his job. He went in there and he had a huge upset against, Garcia fought like crap. Don't get me wrong. But still, Raleigh went in there and did what he had to do to win the fight. Tio didn't look terrible.
Yeah, it was okay.
Didn't look terrible, but all in all, I mean...
But Garcia, let me tell you something, right? When you really think about Garcia, okay, he got destroyed against Tank Davis. Remember, he kept turning his back to him. He looked ridiculous in there, right? Even when he beat Haney, I watched that fight again, dude.
Haney was the disgrace of the card.
That was disgrace to the card. But even when Garcia fought Haney and kept knocking him down, when you really watch the way it's not like he was fighting that good either, bro. He just kept hitting him, and Haney just couldn't take the shots. But he really didn't look that good in that fight either, bro. When you really watch the way he fought, so
he's not a good boxer.
That's what I'm saying. So like, I wasn't.
He's got one punch.
I wasn't that shocked. I was shocked at the line, and I wasn't that shocked that Romero won that fight. I wasn't. I don't think Garcia, he's got speed, he's got the looks, he's a good-looking kid. He does have power in that left hand. He's not a great boxer, bro.
I wasn't shocked, but I was a little surprised because, listen, you got a guy. See, I was more shocked with the Haney situation because Haney knows how to box.
Yeah.
And he's a good boxer. So, all right, he got his legs taken out from under him. He couldn't recover after that. He kept going down. Fine. Okay, but when you get a guy like Garcia who just said he's not a good boxer, he's got some good power, he's got some good pop.
He's got great speed.
He's got good speed.
Yeah.
And you're going against another guy who's even lesser of a boxer, who's more of just
Haney.
No, than Garcia.
Than Garcia, yeah.
He's just a brawler.
Yeah.
Like just an unchained brawler with no technique, throws wild, loads up and everything. You kind of assume, like, eventually within 12 rounds, he's probably going to catch him with something. And he just never, I don't know, it was almost...
He never got off.
It was almost like he had, like paintballs in the gun instead of shotgun shells. He just never got off.
He wasn't throwing enough. I don't know. Yeah. Very disappointing performance.
But you got to remember, we'll talk about it after that, but there's no incentive. The one thing about Turkey, he doesn't give you a ton of incentive because he kind of puts everything on the table to you right there because money's not an object to this guy.
But that's not how it's going to be, And then before we talk about that, I mean...
We're going to get into it.
Well, and then Haney looked like he was still shell-shocked. Almost like a lot of these UFC fighters, once they get the champs, once they get knocked out that one time, then they fight like with their chin back and they're afraid. He looked like he fought like that. He was so scared to take a shot because I don't think he had any more faith in his chin after what happened with Garcia.
And he's fighting a Robert Garcia kid who comes forward, hits with power, and listen, you can outbox. He proved it. I can outbox you, but if you catch me, what if my legs go again? What if I can't recover again?
It was in his head.
It was in his head, bro. It was in his head.
He might never find it again.
Maybe not. I don't know. I mean,
remember, I thought he lost to Lomachenko too.
He 100% did.
You know what I mean?
100%.
He shouldn't be undefeated.
No.
And then the Garcia he lost. I know Garcia was on Ostarine. I don't know what the fuck that even does for you. What does Ostarine do as far as performance enhancing?
So you're taking that after. You're like, if you're on testosterone, you're taking that afterwards.
For recovery?
It kicks your natural testosterone back into
almost like Clomid.
It's basically
It's basically what it is. Yeah. Like clomiphene or Clomid.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. So it just kind of.
So he was on test and was taking it to keep his test up.
Yeah, and it's in and out of your system really quick.
They just test him at the right time.
Yeah, it's really, and the tainted supplements, and I was in the food that I ate.
Sure, everybody says like Canelo with the meat.
And then you could say now we can also say about Garcia, you could say. Maybe
was it because of that?
Maybe he had no choice but to be complete. Maybe we don't know how clean he actually was. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was dirtier than we thought because the Ostarine is post cycle.
I don't think anybody's fucking clean, dude. I don't trust nobody. Are you kidding me? They have.
Well, no, there are clean fighters. There are clean fighters.
I know there are, absolutely. But dude, there's gear coming out that's like undetectable for a while, and then eventually USADA, whoever testing, catches on. And then there's another thing that comes out, just like in baseball when they had the clear and they couldn't test for it.
No, there's always going to be something. There's always going to be something.
And you know what? When you're dealing with that kind of money, man, even if you get suspended, right? But if you get and don't get caught, it's worth it.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You have a career, say on the level.
Your reputation gets tarnished.
Say you have a career on the level of say Sugar Ray Leonard, right? You have a career at his level. Then you win all these titles, you get all these accolades, you go down to the Hall of Fame, all this thing, and then a couple years down, afterwards, you find out that you were doping, blood doping. All that's not that all that's for nothing, but at the end of the day, like your legacy's shot.
Yeah,
like look at Canseco and McGuire.
I get it.
You know what I mean?
I'll give you a classic example without going too off the rails here, right? There was this guy played for the Yankees, Melky Cabrera. okay? He was a regular dude, man. He made it to the big leagues. He wasn't that good. Went to, I don't know what team he went to. I don't know if it was the Indians or the Orioles, whatever he went. All of a sudden, the guy turned into an all-star.
Who's this?
Melky Cabrera was
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
got a huge contract after that. He had a monster year, got like 4 years, $100 million, right? And after a guaranteed money, and then like in the second year in the contract, he tested positive for whatever it was. He got banned for like a year and a half or whatever. He still got that 4 years, $100 million, no matter what.
Right.
He got that big paycheck that he would have never got if he didn't juice up, and he got that paycheck. So yeah, is he known as a juice? Is he known? Yeah, but you know what? He got a fucking $100 million.
Yeah.
So sometimes these guys look at the risk reward of doing it, and the upside with the wealth. It's a lot of times it's fucking worth it.
The thing with boxing too is like
I'm not comparing baseball to boxing.
No, but I'm not saying that. But baseball too. The same thing with baseball. Like did Canseco and McGuire juice? Yeah, they juice. But at the end of the day, that doesn't help your hand-eye coordination. You still got to hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. You know what I mean? So I'm not condoning it. I'm not condoning it. But
yes,
you know,
you are.
No, I'm not.
You love it.
I love it. But then in boxing too, like there's a lot of things that go on in boxing. Like you got to pump when you're on a little bit of gear. Your lactic acid is built up. You can't hold your shoulders up. Like there are pros and cons. It's not all pros. It's not all pros, especially when you're an athlete. Like there are pros of it. Sure, you get powerful, you recover quicker, but there's also some cons.
Depending on what you do, like
right.
if you do the EPO.
Right, yes, it depends on what you do.
Like what
but there are pros
doing.
and cons to everything that you do. You still have to have talent.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
Of course.
So
back to the Turkey thing. So what I saw, right now, I guess what they're trying to do is how do they still keep the prize fighters happy with the money, but then start this new thing like the UFC has where they have your purse and then you get double if you win.
Well,
right?
that's like the UFC structure.
Because I saw the structure. They were almost saying, which if I was a UFC fighter, I'd get pissed, where that it was like the guys in the top 5 are going to get like a $750,000 guarantee. Then they'll get another $750K to win. And then they'll have fight of the night, performance of the night, just like they do in the UFC. But you're not going to draw these big-time fighters, prize fighters, to come do that.
Well, sure. Well, here's this is why.
Now, I know if they're on pay-per-view and then they get pay-per-view points. or whatever.
But the incentive, like this is the one thing I like Turkey, like for instance with Canelo. We all watched the Canelo fight, his last fight against that
terrible fight.
And I was saying through the whole thing, I was like, I don't know why people are fucking thinking he's going to knock him out, or it's going to be the guy's fighting a Cuban fighter. They run. Don't tell me that he's not smart enough to understand that. The fact of the matter is, we're going to talk about that matchup, in a little bit. But the fact of the matter is Turkey had the big money fight signed and the money in place already for Canelo.
For Canelo Crawford.
It's done before he even fought his last fight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what incentive is there for him to go out in his last fight to perform or really put it on this guy? He had no incentive because he knows the next fight. That the next fight I'm getting,
why risk
XYZ?
Why take any risk?
At least with this, like Turkey's doing a good job because he's getting the big names because he's showing you, bop, you know what I mean? It's really market before money. No, it's money before market. Where he's showing you the money instead of worrying about the pay-per-view and this and that. So that's good. But at the end of the day, I could see where when I'm getting this. This is what I'm getting. Maybe you don't fight as well as you should, or maybe you're not.
Then we just cruise to a decision.
Yeah, where
we not take too many risks.
Doesn't mean that they're not going to come. Doesn't be that because the money's lower. Maybe the incentives will be so much higher, where they'll be like, look, we're gonna pay you to show and win, but this is your win. And then these guys, they have something to fight for. Like I don't believe in just pursing it out, dude. Yeah. I don't believe in that.
I never liked it.
You know what I mean? Like, give me show money. I need my show money, but give me incentivize the fighters to get in there and actually get at it.
Of course.
And that's, I think, where Turkey kind of made a mistake in the beginning because it was more like, listen, the guy's doing phenomenal things in boxing. I like this guy a lot.
I like him too.
I think he's good for the sport. I think he's ahead of the curve. I think he's trying new things. Even Ring Magazine and bringing back Jim Lampley for a fight.
Great.
Like, he's trying new things, going to Times Square. I felt bad for him for the Times Square thing, but
yeah, what a flop.
But if you look at
it was a cool setup.
Yeah, if you look at the performances, like the Eubank, you said the entrance was a little annoying, and it was.
Yeah.
But how many entrances do you see with that much money behind it?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Like he puts the money behind it because he's got the money. So I like what he's doing, but I think the business model needs to be tightened up a little bit.
It's going to take a while You know, boxing's been around for a long time with the 4 different sanctions, and it's going to take a while, years, for them to really turn this thing. But what happened with him and Dana not being involved with the promotion of the Canelo Crawford fight?
Yeah, so what happened was, the crazy thing about that is this, bro. So something's going on there, because obviously they had Dana signed to he's the TKO thing. They're doing that whole thing. So they were originally going to have that fight be the big main promoter for Canelo Crawford. He just a couple days, yesterday or 2 days ago, not backed out of the deal with Dana, but TKO is no longer sponsoring it. It was supposed to be on Friday.
And then UFC 320 on Saturday.
On Saturday.
Now they're going head to head.
Now he said he's not doing it Friday, he's doing it Saturday. I don't know, like that news hasn't come out yet, but I have an idea kind of why.
They must have had low pay-per-view watch on that Friday night they did in Times Square. Maybe the buys were low.
Listen, first of all, there's a couple reasons. One reason is I think that on a Friday night, you're right, because it was supposed to be at Allegiant Stadium. You people fly in for that. It's not just locals. So you want to go? You got to take off work Friday.
Yeah.
Because we have to leave on Thursday.
Sure.
So that helps. That's number one. So you could have been looking at that. I also just I don't see like a long-term relationship. I could be wrong with Turki and Dana. I think they're too narcissistic out. Like they both have their own ways of doing things. Like Dana White built an enterprise with his way. Turki's trying to build an enterprise in his own way. And the reason why Turki's doing it this way is because when you look at boxing natively back in the day, me and you can be promoters, but we're going to have a Cold War. I want this. You want this. I want to do this. I want to do this.
But that's been the problem with boxing since day one.
So the reason
why you never have the best fighters fighting the best, because the promoters always getting involved.
So
they can never agree.
What Turki's doing is he has full creative control. He's the matchmaker.
No promoters.
He does everything.
Just like UFC.
He wants full control of his product. So think about having full control of your product and also being a partner with Dana White, who has full control of his product.
Yeah.
That could be a little bit of a... So maybe they couldn't come to their terms, and not that they're going to do another card. And he's like, you know what, for this card, but why would you do it the same night as that? There's something up there. Why would you do it the same exact night? And Vegas ain't out of the question. I mean, I know UFC's in Mexico, but Vegas ain't out of the question. Like, they're thinking about, so...
Well, maybe they'll do UFC 320. They'll start it earlier in the day. This way,
I don't think it matters, bro. They're going to cross over at some point. Like, why would you... I understand if it was the Friday, like the whole thing, people got to fly in Thursday night, but the whole thing with one day later...
And is that Mexican Day?
Yeah, it's in Mexico.
Is that the holiday?
I think it is. Yeah,
the Mexican Independence Day weekend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, man.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how that whole thing shakes out. So now it's a Riyadh season. Now it's a Riyadh season promotion, which is him. But I don't know. I'm interested. I think the relationship's going to go forward, but I think they're going to have some bumps and bruises together. It's like two alphas going. You know what I mean?
We'll see how it plays out. I'm excited for it, man. Boxing needed to have a little something to to pick it back up again.
Yeah.
So it's going to be good. But speaking of Canelo Crawford, man, Crawford coming up in weight. Crawford's been the best in the business. He's pretty much shut out everybody in front of him since he started his career. He's a tough motherfucker. Then you got Canelo, who's the best of our era.
What he did to Spence, dude.
He destroyed.
Bro,
I thought that was going to be a close fight.
Remember, I was touting Spence for years.
I know.
My father was the one who got me on Spence. My father, he has a good eye for boxing, and he saw him really early on. He's like, you got to check this kid Spence out. And I was like, well, if he says so. And I started and I was like, wow, this kid is something else.
It was after the accident, though.
It was after the accident, but I'm just saying, he still pulled.
Those of you guys, if you remember that, he got into a bad accident with his Lamborghini.
But still, bro.
He looked so outmatched and overpowered.
He couldn't make it. Like, there was not an adjustment to be made in
there was
that
nothing he could do in that fight.
I was actually heartbroken for him.
He got knocked down how many times?
He got beat up so bad.
He got beat up bad.
But you're right. It is after the accident, but you got to wonder, I think he probably would have did the same thing before the accident.
It made me really respect Crawford a lot more. And this guy's tough, and he's tough for moving up to fight Canelo.
Smart in the ring.
He's very
smart,
very very high ring IQ. But then you got Canelo, who's only lost to two people in his life, which was Mayweather when he was 21 years old, and then he lost to Bivol a couple of years ago.
And he went
up,
Yeah,
and he went up to do that. And in the beginning, you were like, you were kind of on Crawford, and then you've been changing your tune lately the past.
No, I
couple
was on
weeks.
Canelo.
You were no.
Yeah, I was on Canelo. Remember I said he was too big.
You say he was too big. Yeah, you were on Canelo. Right. So I don't know. How are you? How are you feeling now about this fight?
So after talking, like really doing some deep dives into like the whole thing with Turkey and the business model, and we just talked about the contract, right? Like how Canelo's already signed in to fight this fight. It made me really think, because if you guys watched his last performance against a Cuban boxer, do you remember I kept saying that all week before the fight?
He was a big guy too,
and everyone was like, he's a big guy, but Canelo's going to knock him out. He's a nobody, never heard of him. And I was like, he's not going to knock this guy out. We actually hit that wager. It was like plus 180 or whatever like that or plus two.
Canelo by decision.
Yeah. And I was like, there's no way this guy's knocking him out. They're like, we're crazy. I was like, bro, he's fighting a Cuban-style fighter. This guy gets on his bike and he just runs and runs. And I said, and don't tell me that Canelo Alvarez, the face of boxing, with the camp and the money that he has behind him and the promoter that he has and all this other stuff, that they don't know this. They set that fight up to have him fight. He's like, I wanted him to fight. You didn't want him to fight. You knew he was a Cuban-style boxer. You knew that going in. So he went into that fight knowing that, listen, this guy's going to run. I'm going to track him down a little bit. I'll do what I need to do. Get me out of this fight. Let me get my payday and let me go fight, Crawford. I'm telling you right now, bro, there's a difference between Canelo and Crawford. Canelo fights more for the money. And listen, everybody fights for the money. I get it. But Crawford goes in there to fucking fight, dude. And I think what's going to happen in this fight, I'm starting to lean Crawford now. I think that Canelo's going to kind of own him like kind of early. Probably, Crawford's going to have to make a lot of adjustments. But I think down the stretch, I think Crawford's going to start finding his spots with him, because he's
a slow starter.
I'm not convinced that Canelo's going to. If Canelo shows up and fights, like for real, like they both actually show up and fight, it's going to be a great fight, dude. Great fight. But I'm not convinced. What Canelo are we going to see?
I mean, look, they're fighting for like pound for pound number one. Canelo's going to, I think he's going to come ready, bro.
Oh, he's going to come. But when you get into that groove of getting into the ring and not fighting, like I don't consider that a fight. Like he coasted. And you're fighting down to the level of your competition, and you're just doing what you do to get by. And then you get somebody now in Crawford who's going to bring it to you from the beginning. He's going to lay all these landmines out. He's going to put all these chess pieces out that you're going to have to solve. That wasn't a tune-up fight against this kid that he had. That was a joke.
Yeah.
That was a fucking embarrassment, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think Canelo can catch him.
What's the line right now?
And hurt him. I don't know. I got to look.
Look that up. In the meantime, if you guys don't know who we are, we're from the MadLabMMA.com. We have a website. Come check us out. Mike is a combat sports enthusiast. He breaks down boxing, breaks down UFC. We do our favorite DFS plays. We do our boxing wagers, full breakdowns, audio breakdowns. We also have this awesome tool called the Fight Brain, which is another tool that Mike made that predicts the fights for us. And then Mike will do his predictions versus the Fight Brain. And we have a great community of combat sports enthusiasts. We all watch the fights together in Discord on the weekends. And we do weekly passes, monthly passes. Come check us out, the MadLabMMA.com. You'll see the links below in the description.
Minus 205 for Canelo.
I can understand
Because of the weight. I get it. Because of the weight.
Now, they're fighting at 160?
Yeah.
So Crawford's coming up. I mean, Canelo.
He's got to come. He's jumping up a lot, dude.
That's what I'm saying, dude.
I'm just not. Listen,
Canelo's gonna have to cut to get.
I always said. The boxer always beats the puncher. You know what I mean? And I get it. Canelo's got a great shot. At the end of the day, people don't think Crawford can hurt him. I'm like, dude, anybody can be hurt.
Anybody can
Because the fact of the matter is, guys, is the punches that knock you out are the punches you don't see. They don't have to be the hardest punches. It's the punches that you don't see that knocks you out. And as you get older and as you're in wars, and he's been in some, he's been in some, you slow down. And when you slow down, centimeters are huge in the ring. So but the fraction of a second, if he gets caught with a shot, it doesn't have to be the hardest shot. He just doesn't see it coming. Pacquiao. Perfect example, and we'll get to that. But Pacquiao, a guy who, was never known for his defense, but little by little, as he got older, bro, he was getting caught. So listen, Crawford can absolutely hurt him. Absolutely 1,000%, especially the way he changes angles and the way he picks and chooses his spots. I think he's going to be the faster fighter. I think he's going to look like the fresher fighter in there, and I think he might Canelo look a little flat-footed in there, but I don't know. I haven't decided yet here. Size also is a huge factor. Huge.
Yeah.
Size and power is a huge factor. We all know that Canelo's chin is legendary. So I don't know yet, but I'm starting to lean
Mexican,
Crawford.
bro. Guadalajara.
I'm still leaning Crawford a little bit.
We'll have full breakdown of that as we get closer to that big fight. Speaking of Manny Pacquiao, this breaks my heart. I love Manny Pacquiao. I wish he would have fought Floyd Mayweather 5 years earlier when he was in his prime. Of course, Floyd, waits it out. He fights Mosley when Mosley's old. He fights Pacquiao when Pacquiao. That's what he does. That's what he did. Can't stand him, dude. Can't stand him. But Manny Pacquiao, 46 years old, coming out right into a title fight, no less. After the guy hasn't fought in I don't even know how long.
4 years.
You got to think that he just needs the money, bro. He's known to be a degenerate gambler. He's known to give all his money to the people in the Philippines. He is the hero of the Philippines. You got to think that this is just about the money for the guy. And, he's not fighting a chump in Barrios either, man. I mean, I can't see. 46 years old, bro.
Yeah.
I can't see. His speed's going to be pretty much gone. He'll have some pop still, but not the pop.
He's got those calves, bro.
He's got those calves.
He's got those calves, the legendary calves. But here's the thing: you got to look a little deeper into it. But you're right; he doesn't have money. But if you were jet set if you were boxing, you're at your age now, you wanted to make a comeback, and I'm like, all right, well, we got to wait for the right opportunity. Like, you're older now; we got to wait for the right opportunity. The welterweight division right now, bro, is garbage. It's garbage. And that's not a knock on Barrios. It's just a welterweight. So if there's any time, and Barrios, if you look at Barrios, I think Barrios is tough. He's young, he's tough, but I don't consider him like a good champion. Like, he's a really watered down champion, like, for the welterweight division. So there's really nobody. So if there's ever a window for him to do it, it's got to be right now. It's got to be when the welterweight division is watered down like this. And guys, this is why you come here and listen to us talk about stuff like this, because a lot of people aren't talking about this. They're just talking about, oh, Manny Pacquiao's crazy and blah, blah, blah. But they're not telling you why he's coming back. And
this is the fucked up part about boxing, too. You got guys in the top 5 and all the different sanctions, all the organizations that want their shot for the title, and they bring in Pacquiao off the street after years and put him right into a title fight. How do the rest of these guys feel?
Yeah. Because we got to remember, Barrios is his promoter sitting there going, we could fight, but
no one's going to buy pay-per-view. No one's going to watch.
We could fight Glass Joe. We could fight Piston Hurricane. We could fight this one. Oh, we could fight Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
It's a big name.
Yeah, a lot more money.
It's a lot more money. So,
I don't blame Barrios.
No. Well, let me tell you something. It's not a shoo-in. This fight's not a shoo-in because Barrios isn't that good. It's not a shoo-in. But I do think that this has potential for Manny Pacquiao to get embarrassed.
Yeah, that's what I don't want to see, man. I'm used to Pacquiao the legend, the Pacquiao Morales, the Pacquiao Juan Melmo Marquez, like, the wars he was in, and, the Pacquiao Cotto, I mean, like, when he was at his greatest, and, I don't want to see that. Like we've seen over and over with these fucking celebrity boxing fights with Holyfield and Tyson and whoever else has come out and done it for the money. I don't want to see that kind of thing again. I would hate to see that. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Pacquiao comes in and looks actually decent for his age, puts on a good show for us, but I just don't see it, bro.
Yeah, I don't see it either. I think he's going to lose the fight.
The only boxer ever that was older.
Foreman.
It was the only one.
But that's different because the
heavyweight.
Power's the last thing to go.
Yeah. He was the only one that really did it in his 40s.
Yeah. Well, Bernard Hopkins.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some guys who did it, but they're exceptional.
Yeah.
These guys are exceptional guys. Like, I mean.
Now, that fight's coming up in a couple of weeks, the Pacquiao fight. I think it's like July 12th.
July 19th.
July 19th, so that's only less than 2 months away.
Yeah, did you see some of his training videos?
How do he look?
Sad.
Yeah. He looks sad.
Like, he looks like you know what he looks like? He reminds me of this. He reminds me of like a guy, like, back in the day, remember he used to hit the speed bag, him and Freddie Roach on the mitts. But like now he looks like a guy, like if me and you were walking down the street and we saw
whatever you're going to say, it's going to be terrible.
We saw like some little skinny Mexican guy like in the streets of LA just shadow boxing, but he actually looked pretty good. You know what I mean? You're like, bro, I wonder if that guy was a boxer back in the day. You know what I mean?
Back in the day.
Yeah, so it's what he reminded me of. It was sad. It was sad to watch because but listen, if his marketing team knows he needs money, like I said, if he needs money, which we all know he does, and he knows nothing else, like this is a way he can make a quick payday, you're going to do it now when it's this watered down. This is how watered down the welterweight division is, that they're willing to give this guy a title shot right out of the gate.
That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, so.
Wow. All right. Touch on Jake Paul versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
What a joke, dude.
And they're saying his father was saying this is the best my son's ever looked in, Cam. Come on, bro.
What a
are we
joke,
talking
dude.
about here? Julio Cesar Chavez
I'm
Jr.,
actually getting sick of Jake Paul now.
in case anybody forgot, lost to Anderson Silva in a celebrity boxing match 2 years ago.
That's right, I forgot about that.
Did you forget? Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.
yeah.
lost to Anderson
40,
Silva
42.
to a 44-year-old.
Was he 44 then?
44-year-old Anderson Silva in a boxing match.
In a boxing match.
So what are we going to see here?
Bro, I'm so sick of this, bro, because, listen, this is the world we live in, though, today.
And we know this kid's lazy. We know he gets high all the time. We
Bro.
know he's had bad camps all the time. That was his biggest
He's a joke.
downfall.
He's
you know?
a joke, dude. He's a joke. But at the end of the day, when you look at this and you're looking at this fight, like, the genius of Jake Paul is coming to an end. Because it's running its course. Like, how many more guys can you peel? Like, you go off Tyson Fury's name.
Who's not even, and he wasn't
fight his
even.
brother.
He wasn't even a.
His brother stinks.
Yeah.
You know,
He lost to him.
and he lost to him.
He lost to him.
You know, then you peel off, Tyson, which was a disgrace, and I told everybody we were on here saying what a disgrace, and people actually bet Tyson. Can you fucking imagine that,
Bro, listen. Anybody who's not a real boxing fan, when that was going on, the whole Tyson.
It was like McGregor Mayweather.
It was the
He's
same
gonna do
thing.
it.
Like, no, dude,
You
are you serious? He's gonna pull. I'm like, what are you guys talking about?
You remember this?
Yeah.
He's gonna do it.
Robin Black.
Robin Black. He's gonna do it. He's gonna knock out
A 60-year-old guy. Like that. It amazes me that anybody really. We're putting money on him, and we're talking about how he's gonna. Come on, bro. Are you nuts?
No. So, but listen, you got to give the kid credit. The kid,
Jake Paul,
because he knows, like, listen, my target audience isn't the Mike and Bushes.
Yeah, it's
Because
the
they're
casuals.
smart enough to know.
It's the casuals.
It's the casuals that they're
Yeah.
going to see the highlights of the father, not the son.
Yeah.
They're going to say the legendary Julio Cesar Chavez, this and that, blah, blah, blah. They're going to show him in the ring. They're going to show him knocking out
Son
Meldrick.
of legendary.
Show him knocking out Meldrick Taylor. What a disgrace. Right? They're going to show him son of legend, blah, blah, blah. And then they have no idea that this guy's a crackhead.
Yeah. I know.
You know what I mean? Things like literally, it's almost like what is it called? What's his name's brother that was a crackhead?
Who?
Mickey Ward.
And Christian Bale?
Yeah.
Great movie.
Great movie.
I just saw it again a few weeks ago.
Like, he washed up fighter, just a crackhead now. Like, you know what I mean? Can Chavez win this fight if he actually has discipline and yeah, of course he could, because I don't think Jake Paul is good. But
Are you even interested in this fight?
no, I don't.
Is anybody interested
This is
in
a
this
fight
fight?
I probably, honestly, out of all the fight, I probably won't watch.
And we watch everything.
Yeah, I probably won't, because this, I have no respect for the way he tarnished his father's name. And Jake Paul, I just think now it's getting to the point where if you invest in this, you're kind of stupid.
Yeah.
You know, you're kind of stupid. You know what I mean? So I have no interest in this.
At the end of the day, the Jake Paul and Logan Paul are winning the game no matter what. They get the eyeballs.
I just want to see him fight. Like you say you want to be a boxer. He's calling out Canelo. He's calling out, okay, call out Canelo. That's fine. You want to call him out. But at the end of the day, fight anybody, bro.
He knows he's going to lose to real fighters.
No, I know, but fight anybody. Fight a Golden Gloves boxer.
And he'll lose.
Fight the winner of a Golden Gloves. Fight.
He'll lose. He knows he'll lose. So he's cherry-picking people to make another payday.
But this is what I mean about Canelo. Canelo was going to take that fight. Canelo was going to take that fight, and Turkey stepped in and said, "You ain't taking that fight. I'm signing you to a 3-fight deal because you're only fighting boxers." But he was going to take that fight. So what does that tell you about Canelo?
I mean, Jake Paul.
Think about that.
But Jake Paul was talking so much shit.
Doesn't
I
matter.
think Canelo was getting.
Anybody knows. Like, he was actually going to take that fight, and then
Yeah.
Turkey stepped in and go, "No. We're setting you up a Crawford."
There's no reason for him to take that fight. He's worth $1 billion.
I mean, think about it, but what does that say about him, bro? That's greed, because you know he's got a ton of money, bro. He don't need the money.
He's worth like $1 billion.
But he was going to actually take that fight.
All right, last but not least, not a lot going on, but there is a fight this weekend coming up. Josh Taylor and the Usman fight. What do you think about this fight?
Essuman, yeah, it's a good.
I don't know a lot about Essuman. Josh Taylor, I've seen fight. I like.
You don't
him.
need to know a lot. You just need to know Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is a guy who, very good British fighter. Very, very known over the pond. had a couple fights. Obviously, lost to Teofimo Lopez. Lost to Catterall the first time. I mean, beat Catterall the first time, but he lost that fight. He lost that fight. You know, and I actually, and I'll tell you one thing. I bet on him in that fight, and I still, even though I won the bet, I was like, we didn't win that. I told the guys in the Discord, I was like, we did not win that. Then he came back and he fought Catterall, and I thought he would have made the adjustments, and Catterall actually beat him. I think he took him. I mean, I think he took him lightly the first time, but the second time there was no excuse. You know, so that was at 132. So technically, in my eyes, he lost 3 in a row, not 2 in a row. Now he's coming up. This is something that, you know, a lot of people said that he should have did a long time ago. He should have came up to, you know, this weight class. But now he's fighting a guy. Now, when you look at this is really set up for him. You know, people are looking at him like, yeah, he's been in some wars. He's a little bit older, but he's actually fighting a guy who's older than him. He's fighting a guy who's 36 years old. He's only got 8 KOs and 21 wins. So he's not a big power puncher. So you don't got to worry about any kind of, you know, concussive power from the guy. And it's a championship fight, 10 rounds.
10 rounds.
Because if you watch his past fights, this is what I mean, how smart the promoters are. When people don't dive into the detail like we do, they're like, oh, 10 rounds, you know, he's up and up, he's fighting this guy. Why? He's fighting this guy, number one, because he doesn't have concussive power. He doesn't even have 50% knockout ratio. That's number one. Number two is they're making it 10 rounds because Josh Taylor has been known to fade lately in the later rounds, but he jumps on you early. So that's giving him an opportunity to score rounds, get rounds in the bag, and then by the time the 10th round comes in, it's over.
So if this was setting this up for him.
Right. If this was a 12-round fight, interesting last couple rounds, because that's when he kind of tends to fade. So, I mean, smart money's on Josh Taylor. He's the known commodity. You know, can things go awry for him here? Yeah, absolutely. You still, there's still a question mark. He's still, you know, coming up in weight. This is, you know, coming up in weight. He's obviously not going to cut weight no more. Maybe the cardio's a little bit better because he's not cutting the weight that he did. He's the better boxer. He's obviously the more fan friendly fighter. I'm expecting him to win this fight, but like I said, I think that's the rhyme and reason why it's 10 rounds, why he's fighting this guy. He's fighting a guy that ultimately is not going to put him in a lot of danger. 10-round fight where he doesn't have to worry. He could jump on him early, and even if he starts losing the 7th, 8th, and 9th round, like, he may go back to his corner and say, thank God I don't have 2 more rounds to go, because that guy he'll steal it from me. You know, so, and I think it'll ultimately, you're looking at probably, if I had to predict and I had to put money on it, I'd say Josh Taylor by points.
Josh Taylor by decision.
Yeah, by decision, unanimous decision. I think he'll make it look. I think it's going to get interesting in the later rounds where everyone's going to say like, "Good thing this thing didn't go in 12." You know, so we got a lot of boxing coming up though, guys. This is a show that we just put together because we wanted to get it out there. Little intro show, talk about some news and notes. Got a lot of boxing coming up. We're going to do a lot more in-depth breakdowns with the bigger fights. I'm actually super psyched for this show.
Let's go, baby. You can find us at themadlabmma.com. The link is below. Like I said, combat sports. We cover boxing, UFC, wagers, DFS. We have our community. We have a bunch of sharp bettors in our community. These guys wager on fucking everything.
Bro,
they wager on darts,
they'll wager on what color socks you're wearing on
WNBA, golf. We have different channels for different guys. Really, really good sharp bettors too. NBA, everything. So come check us out. We have weekly passes, monthly passes. Really low price. We'd love to see you, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week.
Peace.